I'm Casper Van Dien. You're watching RPadTV.
Yeah, that was my fault. I hit like 2 wrong buttons on that.
Dude, we got introduced by Casper Van Dien.
That's right.
Doyen of straight-to-video movies from 2000 on.
He will always be Johnny Rico to me, though.
Yes, I mean, there's not much else he was in.
He was in this video game movie called Noobs, and that's actually where I met him. And we hit it off. We started following each other on Twitter until we didn't, because apparently our political views are not close.
Don't tell me another failed actor who realizes the only way he'll make money is by getting stuff done by Breitbart.
You may be onto something there.
Yeah, Dean Cain is another one.
Scott Baio.
I mean, there's just so many.
Kevin
of them.
Sorbo.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it really, and it's always the action stars. It is. It's like they got hit one time too many in the old stunts, and they're sad, pathetic individuals.
Oh, we have Johan in the house. What's up, Johan? Good to see you, sir. They can have Kevin Sorbo. I'm happy we have Xena. I think that's a fair trade.
Oh, she can kick his ass up and down the block. Lucy Lawless is the bomb.
Yeah, she's awesome and funny too. I loved her little bit on Curb Your Enthusiasm, where she made me believe that a woman that looks like her would date Larry David. That's a testament to her acting.
That's yeah.
So, guys, you're watching RPadTV. I'm here with my excellent friends Marcus Beer and Paul Semel, or as they call him on Krypton, Paul Semel. This meal god.
Paul Smells? That's just rude.
That's actually what my
brother comes on your show, and you say Paul Smells. That's just wrong.
So, well, Batman.
That's not the worst thing I've been called.
So it's the end of the year, guys. It's time to do all our best of lists and things of that nature. And I thought we would decide. We'll start things off with TV. We're going to pick 2 shows each. One that was our favorite television show of the year, and one that we thought objectively was the best. But before we get to that, Paul, do you got an update on your wonderful website?
I do, actually. Just about 2 hours ago, depending on if you're watching this live, of course, I put up my review of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is the new Indiana Jones video game for people who care about such things.
Can you give us a teaser?
Okay, so basically, it's not Tomb Raider, it's not Uncharted, and if you know that, you will, and you know what to expect, that it is much more of like a stealth action / adventure game, you will enjoy it a lot. It's very faithful to the movies. But if you go in thinking, oh, it's going to be like a lot of shooting and a lot of jumping, and you got to do all the Mario kind of, timing things exactly, then you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Interesting. It already sounds like something I want to play. So yeah, I can't stand all these time jumping crap stuff. So
yeah, I mean, you do some there is some jumping, and you get into fist fights with people, including lots of fascists, which is fun.
That's your favorite pastime.
Yeah, but it's not like you're doing a thing where like you have to jump and then do a backflip and then do like a half gainer, there's no gymnastics like there is in like the Tomb Raider.
Well, let's face it, Indiana Jones was never exactly Tom Holland, was he?
No. I mean, this is set like in between Raiders and The Last Crusade, so he's like in his 30s at this point. So he's not 70s like in his what?
He's probably positively old and senile. Everybody knows it's all shit after your 20s.
Well, so yeah. So anything else going on Paul Semel? You got some?
No, just the usual bunch of book stuff as always, and I also did a review of that game Sprawl, the old school first person shooter. That was kind of fun.
Right.
If you like old school shooters. If you don't, then you won't like it. So yeah, a lot of qualified things lately. So
And Marcus, how have you been? It's been a while since we've had you on the show. December is, of course, your favorite month of the year. You got a birthday, you got an anniversary, and you got the Christmas season.
Yeah, I had a great chill birthday on Sunday. Thank you for your kind wishes. Went out for a banging sushi meal. It's our anniversary next week, which is great. And then obviously, yes, we've got the holiday season. So, but yeah, I've sort of like been taking it kind of slow. I'm on new medication they've upped the dosage, and the side effects have not been great. But I did get 8 days in New York last month.
Yes.
And that was absolutely fantastic. We got to see the Rockettes. And we got to go through the New York Central Library, which obviously, Ghostbusters. And
Right.
we passed the apartment from the original Ghostbusters as well. We did the Central Park thing. I mean, we did all the touristy stuff, but a lot of it was so tied in to some of our favorite films.
Yeah.
We went to the deli where the legendary line "I'll have what she's having" was.
Oh, Katz's.
Yeah, it was an insane experience. But yeah, we just had a really good time, and it's first time in 2 years that we've been away for just the two of us, and yeah, it was good. It was good. So now I'm just I am working on my nerd tree, and
a nerd tree.
Well, we have two trees in the house. We have two Christmas trees. The nice tree, which Shauna has, and then there's the nerd tree, which is that as a topper.
Wow, that's outstanding.
Yeah, so I actually have a few new additions this year. The trash compactor from Star Wars, and Stay Puft climbing up the side of the building on fire, and a couple of Doctor Who ones. So yeah, my nerd tree is I'm quite proud of it. I mean, it's got stuff I've been collecting for years. Doctor Who, Star Wars in particular, lots of cool stuff. So that's what I've been up to, and I will be up to. So
excellent. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be picking two shows each, our personal favorite and one we thought objectively was the best. Marcus, why don't you kick us off with your favorite show of the year? And I spelled favorite with a U, just for you.
That's very kind of you. My favorite show of the year was Tokyo Vice Season 2. Now, great show. I mean, I read the book, and there's a lot of conjecture. I mean, how much of the book is fiction because it's supposed to be true, but the TV series was such an amazing both seasons. I watched the behind the scenes where they talked about the problems they had with filming and just being in one of the first TV shows to be able to film in Tokyo and have that level of cooperation with the police. Now, it's basically a crime drama, fish out of water crime drama. You've got Jake Edelstein, who is a guy from the Midwest who up sticks in 1999 and moves to Tokyo to be a journalist. So total tall gaijin, long hair. He gets a job at the biggest, newspaper in Tokyo. He's a beat reporter, crime reporter. So obviously you can see there Ken Watanabe plays police inspector. And their paths cross, and they get caught up in the Yakuza gang wars, territorial beefs, etc., lines of succession. And the show is just, I mean, I've only been lucky enough to go to Japan once, but it was still one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But just to look at everything, the way they shoot everything, the way they show you a side of Japan that you don't see in a lot of movies. I mean, you compare it to, say, Lost in Translation. The Tokyo you see there and the Tokyo you see in Tokyo Vice, totally different.
Yeah.
It is time capsule because, again, like I said, it's late 90s, early 2000s. But it's just a great crime show. And it was supposed to hit for 3 seasons, but obviously it's critically acclaimed. It did very, very well. And HBO Max canceled it because we all know that the chap who runs Max is barn-burning idiot. And that's Mr. Zaslav, who canceled Batgirl or Batwoman and the Looney Tunes thing. And yeah, the man is several cans short of a 6-pack, in my opinion. And it's a shame because this would, having a third season would have been great. I mean, thankfully they had enough time with the cancellation notice that they could actually wrap up the individual arcs of the characters and left it so if it did get picked up somewhere else, they could pick it up again. But it's just a great character-driven crime drama. All the characters are well written. There's no stereotypes whatsoever. Even Jake's family back in the Midwest, they, who are kind of puzzled by what's he doing? Why doesn't he come and work for, a big newspaper in the Midwest? Why does he have to go to Tokyo? And you see how it would be so easy to turn those into stereotypical. Oh, what are you doing over the Japanese? And what's wrong with you, boy? And so it's excellent all round. Unfortunately, there has been controversy. The guy who plays Jake Edelstein, Ansel Elgort,
Baby Driver,
he ended up kind of being taken out by Me Too when it was revealed that he'd texted some younger girls inappropriately, and we don't know anything else that's happened because he's kind of just vanished. But he's really good in this show. And then obviously, like I said, the book is excellent, but the fact that I read the book and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I watched the show. This is amazing. And then I did the deep dive and found, some of this is made up because there's no way he could physically have done some of these things or been in one place, but he's obviously here. So it became, by the time season 2 came around, it became, all right, I'm going to take this with a pinch of salt. But I recommend the book. I recommend season 1 and season 2. They're on Max. And it's just a beautiful crime drama that has so many great characters in it and shows, like I said, this side of Tokyo. Tokyo is still beautiful. And, they have their scenes where it's almost Sopranos-esque. There's one episode where 2 killers are sort of like, they've gone to kill somebody. And when they've done it, they have to walk through they're out in the wilds and it's snowing and it's freezing and they end up hitching a lift with this little family. And you see these big hulking guys crammed in the back of a tiny, minivan. And it's just comedy and, like I said, great acting and subtitles, not, where applicable. So, thoroughly recommend it. Absolutely gutted there's no season 3, but very thankful to get to.
So Johan is also a fan of Tokyo Vice. He loved the show, but says it's a slow burn. Agree?
No, I don't agree. So, I mean, well, perhaps it is for some. I mean, for me, I watched the first 2 episodes when it came out, and then I read the book. And then so I carried on watching. The beauty is now you're not going to get a slow burn anymore because you can literally binge it in a weekend because you've got 2 seasons.
Right.
But I mean, maybe I could see that. I mean, they do weave the different characters and the different layers and the different storylines. They are, they do weave together very, very well, but it can take a minute. Season 2 just seemed to clip along at a great pace for me.
Excellent. So, Paul, do you have anything to ask or add?
No, because I'm trying to think of this Japanese noir crime novel that I read a few years ago, and I can't think of it now because I was going to recommend it to Marcus. But it wasn't Tokyo Vice. It was something else. But I can't think of anything of it. I'll have to look it up.
You keep thinking about that, and I will talk about my favorite show of the year. I took out the Ewan favorite, but in retrospect, I should have left it in because it's actually a British show called We Are Lady Parts. And this is there have been 2 seasons so far, and it's really short. So Marcus is saying you could binge Tokyo Vice in a weekend. Same thing with We Are Lady Parts. It's 2 series of 6 episodes. It's about this gaggle of young Muslim women in London, and they form a punk rock band. And it's about, the trials and tribulations they face as young Muslim women in London. They obviously have Islamophobia, their own identity issues. One of them is a lesbian. One of them is a mother. And it's about their sisterhood and their friendship. It's cute. It's funny. It's really smart. And it has some really awesome punk rock music that's really catchy. Like one of their songs that I play pretty much every day is called Voldemort Under My Headdress, which is a song about Lord Voldemort, who apparently can hide under Muslim people's headdresses. But yeah, it can be silly, it can be cute in a rom-com way, but you really feel their struggles, you really feel their bonds of friendship and their love for each other. And it's smarter than most American equivalents of this type of show. So I loved it for many, many reasons. All 5 of these characters are just awesome and dear, and I'm so happy. My friend Minjung actually recommended me this show. I had never heard of it until maybe 2 months ago, and I just devoured both series and then devoured them again. That's how much I enjoyed it. So if you love punk rock music and you want a positive feminist TV show that you could devour in a weekend, We Are Lady Parts is recommended. Now, Paul, you have a surprise pick for us for your favorite show of the year. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, calling it my favorite show is a bit weird. To me, it's more than my favorite thing that happened in TV, which is that Jon Stewart came back to The Daily Show.
Yes.
And he's only doing it one day a week. Sometimes he doesn't even do that because of other things that are going on. But like literally he had quit before Trump got elected.
Yes.
And so during the entire Trump presidency and even during most of the Biden years, you know, you'd constantly hear people say, God, I wish Jon Stewart was back to talk about this. Of course, they also said like they wish George Carlin was back to talk about it, but that's not impossible. But yeah, so having him come back initially just for the election, and now apparently he's going to stick around, has just been great. He's just as funny and smart and insightful as he has been. What's interesting though is how people are reacting to him. Because before, you know, he has always tried his best to see things from both sides. And he would be not as frequently critical of liberals and Democrats, but often critical of them just as much as he is of Republicans and conservatives, you know. And now when he does that, it's interesting because some people can't deal with that. Like people have kind of become so tribal that like if you say anything negative about a Democrat or a liberal thing, like you're somehow being disloyal, which like, you know,
or even something positive, like when that whole Tony Hinchcliffe thing went down at MSG, John was like, I think that guy's funny, and then he got
right
for that, and
yeah,
which goes to show there is no bipartisanship, there is no happy medium. I mean, and
not anymore.
No, and it's infecting the entire planet. And this is why, you know, if we make it to the end of Trump's term, I'll be absolutely stunned. Although don't forget, last time, 7 days after his inauguration, I dropped dead. So I hold out hope. So yeah, I think I watched Jon Stewart come back, and I was a huge fan of his, and I still am. I think a lot of the controversy has been overblown. I think we are at a stage where there's a generation or two that's coming after us that's really over fucking sensitive and needs to get some thick skin, because we realize as a group of liberals that the election was lost because there are a bunch of people who, because they weren't pandered to, they pulled their votes.
That's right. We had fewer voters.
Those are the ones. It's not. You can't blame Fox News. You can't blame TikTok or anything. We blame you. Oh, Kamala Harris didn't say this, and this. And I apologize if I mispronounced her name. I don't mean to. It's very tricky. So I'm not voting for her. Or she didn't come out against these people, so I'm not voting her. And guess what? You voted for the worst thing. You said, oh, there's the frying pan. Fuck that. I'm diving into the fire. And that is the problem with the world. I mean, it's like, if I don't get my way, I'm not voting.
Oh, I miss streaming. I miss streaming with you. I miss streaming with you.
With regards to Jon Stewart, like I said, love him, respect him, watched him come back, totally understand where he's coming from on a lot of things. I wonder, and this is my question to you, Paul, do you think that his shtick, or his, not necessarily shtick, his style has been usurped by the likes of John Oliver, who took what he was doing and ran with it with Last Week Tonight, and includes the swears and everything else? Because, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between The Daily Show and Last Week Tonight, even though it's one night a week. And obviously John Oliver then is perhaps a little more vociferously liberal. But I think he is needed in that we on this side of the fence, we need people to call out what's going on. Right. And without that stuff being called out, it's tough to be okay with anything what the other side are doing, because everything that they do impacts people we know, we love, we respect, family, friends, decent people whose lives are going to be terminally worse in the coming 4 years. And that's why I'm wondering. I just want to see what you thought about that with regards to Jon Stewart.
Well, what I would say is I think that he's been somewhat influenced by John Oliver, which is why if you watch the show, he does this sort of miniature version of a John Oliver rant in the beginning of the show, and it's much longer than when he was hosting the show. He would do the opening monologues and the opening jokes, and he wouldn't sort of focus on one thing. He would talk about a bunch of different things that had happened in the world. It was much more like a parody of a news broadcast. So I see the influence on there, and I certainly think that in some respects, John Oliver sometimes does that thing better, but because he has more time. He can talk about these things. He has more time to research these things and more time to talk about a single subject and really get into the nitty-gritty of it. And he also it seems to have a bigger budget. Like he has the budget to do weird things. You know what I mean? Like he had the budget to buy like a $500,000 van for Clarence Thomas.
I don't think they actually bought it. I think they basically said they would buy it. Oh, they would give it to him. They do like crazy stuff like that, which is amazing. So yeah, I was just curious as to your thoughts. Like I said, Jon Stewart, as well as being one of the cooler Green Lanterns, is he set the bar for so many people, and I actually think him stepping away, and no disrespect to Trevor Noah, who was quite excellent for the time, in the interim. But I think when Jon Stewart stepped away, a lot of things started to slip by. There was nobody out there. This was perhaps pre-John Oliver, that a lot of things started to slip and were not called out. And now at least things are getting called out. So look, I'll take Stewart and Oliver. I will take, all of them on every freaking night of the week, because the media has not been very culpable.
The media has been horrible.
Not culpable is the word I'm looking for. The media has been culpable. That's it. It's their fucking fault we're in this mess in the first place.
They have been complicit. I agree.
Yes. Ratings over the quality of life. And of course, now they're all dropping out of these, DEI programs because, we don't need diversification and this, that, and the other, because our people don't want it because Donald Trump won. So anyway,
what I think is kind of, hang on, let me make one more quick point. What I think is funny is that if you listen to comedians, they will say that they get really annoyed when people go, "Oh, it must be great doing comedy in the time of Trump. It must be so easy," because they say like it really isn't. That it gets on them that like he literally sucks all the air out of the room and they have to only ever talk about him. But what I will say is during this time of Trump, the comedy, when it's been political, has been really, really funny. John Oliver has been hilarious. Jon Stewart coming back has been hilarious. The Daily Show, even when it's not Jon Stewart, is still really, really funny. Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, like all these guys, like I know they hate doing it, but they've been really, really funny. So
Ironically, the only one who doesn't seem to be doing it is Fallon.
I stopped watching
Yeah.
when our friend
Yeah.
our friend Gavin used to be his producer, who we worked with at G4. When Gavin left, I stopped watching Fallon. Carla says, can it still be called The Daily Show if it's only done once a week? It is not done once a week. John is
John only does it once a week, and then the other people do it.
Yes.
And the other people who do it are very, very funny. Desi Lydic is hilarious.
Love Desi, love Klepper, love Ronnie, of course. And I love all of them. And some of the new guys they added as, the correspondents they have promising futures.
Yeah, there's I forget the one guy with the bow tie.
Oh, the gay Asian cat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's funny.
Yeah, he's really, really funny. Dulce Sloan is hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they still have Lewis Black, so that's,
Yeah, and if you guys haven't watched it, the Weekly Show podcast with Jon Stewart is also excellent. It's more serious. It's not really comedy. It does get funny, but it's about an hour 15 every week where he gets in really good guests from all areas of, politics, economics, professors. It's a really smart and heady podcast that is a great way to eat your vitamins. I was going to say, getting back to Marcus's point about the news media being complicit, the craziness that happened in South Korea this week, the best story I read about that was on The Verge. And it was from a tech reporter that happened to be there when everything was going down. And she was also drunk at the time. And it was by far the best news report. And the best news reporting shouldn't be coming from a drunk tech journalist. And that's I'm not trying to disparage her in any way. A fantastic article. But we're getting all this shit from American news sources. This is why I try not to read American news. I always start with BBC and Al Jazeera, Axios if I just need a quick snippet, because American news reporting is just so bad, at least the mainstream stuff.
I have not gone to American news site since Trump got elected the first time. I go to The Guardian.
Yeah.
The Guardian is obviously, it's a slightly left of center, but it's fiercely independent, self-funded. And yeah, that's my first port of call every day. Not only do they have a great soccer section, but yeah, it's a good way to figure out what's going on in the world, because here in America, I've always said that the news has to be super local, and then just American.
Right.
And I mean, it just goes back to the fairness doctrine or whatever that Reagan helped overturn for his puppet masters.
Yeah.
And, they've been reaping the benefits ever since. But anyway, I think we got off. I dragged us off topic.
Okay.
By the way, I'm sorry.
Johan says SNL was pretty funny about the elections, as they tend to be.
Yes.
I agree with that. Oh, and I wanted to clarify. When I say I go to BBC first, I'm talking about the British Broadcasting. What does the C stand for? And not Big Black Cock. So always have to make that clear.
Since when did you
I go to Pornhub for all my news?
I mean, Ray Padilla, the New Yorker, is like, you be a big black cat.
It comes back every now and then. So let us talk about the TV shows we thought objectively were the best. Marcus, what do you got?
Well, I'm keeping the Asian theme going, the Japanese theme.
Going back to Japan, huh?
The best show of this year, without a doubt, unequivocally, without any argument whatsoever from anybody, is Shogun.
Oh,
Shogun on FX, Hulu, Disney Plus, wherever you get your streaming services. It's an absolutely fantastic retelling of the war of the novel. I know I only knew I knew Shogun was a huge novel, but I also knew that there was this Richard Chamberlain miniseries from the 80s.
Right.
That kind of really messed with the source material and put his character more front and center. But this time, it's fully in Japanese. the subtitles are easy to pick up on. It's gorgeous. I mean, they didn't do any filming in Japan, but they built this whole world in Canada. And you can see with some of the practical effects that they've done, all the actors just at the top of their game. I mean, much like when Parasite won and Squid Game won for their respective categories a couple of years ago. For Korea. It was so refreshing to see Shogun sweep the awards. I think it was it at the Emmys or the Golden Globes earlier this year or whatever it was. And
I think they did well in both.
Yeah, really, really deserved it. I mean, you watch the behind the scenes that would follow each episode, and they talk about the attention to detail and bringing in the expert and how everybody was dressed. And they were filming this during the end of lockdown, so everybody was masked the fuck up. But it's a fantastic story. It's so emotional. And look, I know that for a lot of people, they see the subtitles and they go, I'll never be able to follow it and see what's going on. But you know what? It just adds to it. I mean, to hear them, all these amazing actors
with the proper intonation and
in their native tongue, as it should be. And for and I hope I don't mispronounce her last name, but Anna Sawai, who had sort of like come to prominence in the Apple Godzilla series. For her to go from that straight into this and to take home the Emmy or whatever it was, Golden Globe or whatever it was, and to see everybody just across the board win awards, from technical to score to, I mean, it was just brilliant. I cannot say enough about this show. I wish that this is a sort of show that should be shown in classrooms for people to get an understanding. Even though it's based on a pulpy novel, everything they do in here just gives you the idea of, all right, so it's not everybody's got gorgeous teeth and looks like a matinee star, back in these times. They're filthy, disgusting. The one English dude doesn't bathe from 1 month to the next, and they make a joke out of it. The Japanese end up scrubbing him down because he smells so bad. But this is how it was. And, it's everything about it is just an absolutely brilliant show. And
you did answer Johan's question in that. He asked, is Shogun fictional? And you said it is based on a pulpy novel.
It's based on a pulpy novel, but
James Clavell, is that
James
right?
Clavell, but there is some history in there. Much like the forthcoming Assassin's Creed game, there are bits in there that are historically accurate. I mean, with regards to the novel, everything, all the attention to detail in the show is historically accurate. And as I was saying to you before we started, there was a third show, Blue-Eyed Samurai, on Netflix, that really just had my Japanese trifecta. And if we'd have gone for a third choice, that would have been that as well. So if you haven't seen that, it's an animated show, really, really good on Netflix. But yeah, Shogun, best show of the year, one of the best. It's right up there with Game of Thrones, Succession, The Sopranos as one of the greatest achievements in TV. And I recommend anybody just spend a couple of days watching it.
It's funny you mentioned Game of Thrones. I was actually thinking about that in terms of the sets and costumes in this show. They just floored me. Like, some of those sets were amazing. Credit to the set production design and all those guys.
And it has something that Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon actually doesn't have: a coherent plot and entertainment.
Game of Thrones had that for a while, and then they ran out of book, so they had to make their own shit up, and then kind of dipped. It happens. So my show that I thought was best, I had very low expectations going in. It is The Penguin, which is based on the Matt Reeves Batman universe. I liked The Batman by Matt Reeves. I didn't quite love it. I wasn't too impressed by the Penguin character in that movie. I mean, I didn't dislike him. It just didn't really do anything for me. So going into the series, I didn't expect too much, but of course I was going to watch it as a massive comic books nerd. And I was just floored by the acting and writing in this series. Colin Farrell as the Penguin was fantastic. His makeup took 2 hours each time he had to put that on. But the real star of the show was Kristen Milioti, who I enjoyed in a lot of things like Palm Springs, The Wolf of Wall Street. She was on the Broadway production of Once, which is one of my favorite movies. And I think she's really talented, but I did not know she had this gear in her. Like we were talking about Anna Sawai winning awards for Shogun. I think Kristen Milioti is going to be considered for a lot of awards next year. That's how good she is in Penguin. Like, especially in episode 4, I was just blown away by her acting. I had no idea she could be that good. And it also made me more excited about Matt Reeves' Batman universe in general, which is something, again, like I said before, I didn't quite love, but now that he's fleshed out his Batman world more, I'm much more excited for the next Batman movie and what he might do with that. He's just making such an interesting, rich, and different Batman universe than his predecessors. I can't wait. Can't recommend this series enough. There are some logic flaws that are pretty minor, like when all of this is going down, like, hey, where's the National Guard? I know Paul didn't like this series because he didn't like the Batman movie, and this is more of a Sopranos type of thing. It's very Godfather-ish, mafia kind of drama than anything else. Marcus, I knew you were a big fan of the No Man's Land comic books, and this is heavily influenced by those, as well as stuff like The Long Halloween, those Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale comics that are all fantastic. And I got Johan to watch it. Yes. And he said, I watched The Penguin because of your recommendation and was pleasantly surprised and entertained. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was blown away by the writing and acting, especially Colin Farrell and Kristen Milioti, but it's a great cast from top to bottom. So that is what I'm going with as my objectively best show of 2024.
I would agree that it is right up there, one of the best. I actually did like what Matt Reeves did, and the Penguin reminded me a lot of what Nolan did, where especially in his second Batman film, where yes, there was a vigilante in leather and a guy with makeup on his face, but it was a heist movie. It was crime drama. It was
right.
All this, and that's what a good Batman, especially if you're going to somewhat ground it without Superman and without Batmite and all the crazy shit they tend to throw in. Batman. You remember Batmite?
Yeah,
I remember Batmite, but
Plitizik or whatever his name was. I thought Penguin was excellent. I was always excited for it. I thought Colin Farrell did an amazing job. But yes, Sophia, Falcone. She, considering if you look at the comic book version of Sophia Falcone, she is a much physically more powerful woman.
Yes,
she is tall. She is very masculine in a lot of ways, and I'm not saying that as a critique, but I mean you can see a lot, a lot of perhaps Italian American stereotypes, or perhaps even Italian stereotypes in there. So to have this tiny actress embody all of that rage and anger and everything that's going on in Sophia's head,
right,
and just deliver this, deliver the performances she does. I thought it was great, and I mean the going back to Penguin and just watching him get out of things by using his mouth, you think, oh god, he's got to be done. He's got to be done, and then you see that he can still perhaps he's thought 6 steps ahead. The only issue I had was I don't mind changing Oswald to Oz, but Ozcock.
Yeah, I didn't
It
like
sounds
that.
like an Australian salad. It really does. So I mean, they could have just kept the Cobblepot in there, and just
Yeah.
that was my only issue. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Batman Chapter 2, and I hope that actually it does lead to perhaps being pulled into the bigger DC cinematic universe, or whatever it's going to be called, by James Gunn. But yes, I think that that would have been a choice that I would have made had Shogun just not cleaned everyone's clock.
I mean, one of my favorite things about Matt Reeves' Batman is in the comics, Batman is known as the world's greatest detective, but in the movies, he rarely does detective shit. But so I really like that Matt Reeves played up that aspect of the Batman character.
We'd only get that in the animated series.
Yeah. Oh, that's very, very, very true. Very, very true. Marcus, you do have to take off soon. Are there any shows you wanted to recommend that you also like, didn't make the cut?
Day of the Jackal, Eddie Redmayne is quite excellent. The actual show itself perhaps is a little bit uneven, but Lashana Lynch is always excellent and everything, and Eddie Redmayne's quite excellent as well. I'm struggling to think of what else is there. The Diplomat season 2 is another excellent one. I did watch The Traitors at the beginning of the year. Now, I don't know if anybody caught this. Obviously the American version's on NBC, but I was very lucky and caught the British version, which is infinitely better because it has no reality TV stars and F-list celebrities on it, but it doesn't have Alan Cumming. But if you can catch The Traitors UK, recommend that. The season 3 is dropping in January. That's another fantastic one. And yeah, I gotta admit, I am currently enjoying the current run of Man City Implodes, which happens which is basically not happened before. So yes, that's a great ongoing serial that I'm watching on
Another question that I will ask Paul after his pick: are there any old shows that you've happened to binge this year by chance?
Have I gone back to? Well, I mean, I watched Lucifer. I cracked into Tom Ellis. I mean, let's face it, if you can have the devil, you got to have a Welsh devil. That's always a good one. Red Dwarf is one I always do a rewatch of. Doctor Who will be back in December. The Gavin and Stacey season finale is coming up. That's not season finale, series finale. That's going to be on Christmas Day. Hopefully, I can see that on BritBox. Yeah, I mean, let's see. What else have I started watching? Reacher. Because the League of Ungentlemanly Warfare or whatever, the Guy Ritchie movie. The guy who plays Reacher's in that, along with Henry Cavill, and they just Alan Richardson.
Yes,
brilliant Guy Ritchie movie.
I've got a
There's
question
talk
for
of
you.
him playing Batman.
Before you take off, Carlos wanted to know if you watched Time Bandits.
Watched the first episode. I really didn't enjoy it. I understand a lot of people are sad it's ended. Got cancelled. I have issues with it. One, it's really hard for anybody to fuck around with Terry Gilliam's stuff because Terry Gilliam's just out there. Especially somebody who's, in my opinion, a monumental hack like Taika Waititi, who basically had his 3 good shows and since then has just crawled up his own ass and died.
It wasn't really him though. It was more Jermaine Clement doing the writing. So
yeah, I
just
just one trick pony, unfortunately. And then there's also the huge controversy over what were characters that were meant to be suffering from dwarfism, or they were were little people, and they just basically shrunk a bunch of grown-up people. And they have the same problem with and I was actually reading about this past week on why it's a major issue for little people actors now, because the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs trailer for the live action version has got these terrifying looking dwarves, and people are like, we're being replaced. And it's diversity is a great thing, but diversity swings in every direction, and you have to be able to look after all these guys, like Hugh Grant in Wonka when he played the Oompa Loompa. So yeah, it's interesting trying to consume pop culture now because we have so much more to think about. But I want to hear quickly Paul's choice, and then I'm going to bug. So what's your choice, Paul? What's your big one? What is it?
Well, since we got to be quick about this, I went with
just tell me. And I'll go.
It's the third and final season of Sweet Tooth. I even have the book.
Yeah, it was shit.
So.
I kid. It's a great choice. Great choice. Unfortunately, I do have to go. I have a beautiful wife I haven't seen all day.
Say hi to Shauna for us.
Thank you. So good to see you. My love to you guys. See you soon.
Bye, Marcus. All righty.
Is he gone? Good. Let's talk about him.
Well, let me change the Chiron there. Well, that's no good. You're me and I'm you. Let me fix that. Okay, that's much better. So Sweet Tooth season
Sweet Tooth season 3, final season on Netflix. And for people who are unfamiliar with it, it started life as a graphic novel, comic book by Jeff Lemire. And the idea is there has been a viral apocalypse. So imagine if COVID had gone way, way worse.
Can I quickly give a shout out to Jeff?
Sure.
Fantastic runs on Animal Man and Swamp Thing. If you haven't read those comics, also fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I read many of his other books as well. He's very, very good. Anyway, so there's this viral outbreak. It destroys society, the whole thing. But what happens at the same time, as you can see in this lovely photo, is that little babies are born as animal-human hybrids. So you have Sweet Tooth with the flannel. He's a little deer boy. The girl next to him is part pig. There's other animal hybrids, and so of course people hate them because they think it's their fault that this happened, even though there's no scientific proof of that. And it's just it's a very, very different apocalyptic story. Like, I feel like so many times, like when you see these apocalyptic stories, like they kind of hit the same thing. Like at some point somebody has to fight to the death as a sport, and and it's always like humanity is like the worst part of it. And then you also have things that go kind of the other way and get almost treat the apocalypse as like, oh yeah, it's that thing that's kind of going on. Station 11 was like that, the novel and the TV show, like where the apocalypse was kind of inconsequential almost to what was going on. And this struck a really good balance between the two of telling a cool, interesting story that happens because of the apocalypse and doesn't shy away from it, but is also not about the scientist trying to solve the problem or whatever. And then the other thing that it does really well is it deviates from the original comics, but in ways that are very much in the spirit of the comic and are very aligned with what they've done in the show. And, as people have said before, and we'll say again, I don't know what that was.
Something.
No. There's things that you can do in comic books that you can't do on TV and vice versa. They're very different forms of media, and what works in one doesn't work in another. And so this is not, the TV show is not beholden to the books, but it is respectful of the books. And again, that's a fine line that is difficult to sometimes navigate for people, but they pull it off in the show.
And is this the series finale for?
Yeah, so they did 3 seasons. It was executive produced by Robert Downey Jr., by the way, which I think is interesting, although he never turns up in it.
Was he a fan of the comics? I wonder how that happened.
I don't know. I never saw any sort of behind the scenes thing, because it's Netflix and they don't ever do behind this. They don't do that kind of stuff. I don't know.
So I had a couple of questions for you about Sweet Tooth.
Okay.
We have Kelly Marie Tran here,
right?
Who people know from Star Wars. How was her performance in the series?
She was good. She came into it in this 3rd season. She plays twin sisters, and much like the woman in the Star Wars Acolyte, who also was a single actress playing two different sisters. She does a very good job of having them giving each of them a different personality. They're very different.
Cool.
Yeah, so she was really, really good, and I was glad to see like her in something because I was a little worried after the sort of nonsense backlash with Star Wars whether it was going to sour her on stuff. But
The fans sucked.
Yeah, it's just
There's another actor I wanted to ask you about who is I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Nunso Anozi, who played Zaro Zohan Duxis in Game of Thrones and was Sam Obasanya's father on Ted Lasso. But I love this guy. How was he?
He was also. It's funny because I literally just got the Mandalorian season 3.
Oh, he's
4K.
in that as well. That's right.
Yeah, and he plays the pirate king who looks like Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And I was watching the show and I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, oh, it's that guy from Shogun. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
And he has like kind of a tough job in the show because he's supposed to be this big, tough guy. And he's dealing with this like arguably naive kid who has lived somewhat of a sheltered life and doesn't always understand that, like, you know, people hate him just because he's a deer boy. So he's really, really good. The whole cast in that show was really, really good.
Whenever you say deer boy, I'm thinking DEAR. I'm like, dear boy.
Yeah, dear boy. No. He's a you know, kid with antlers and and whatnot. So
excellent.
I don't know if he's prone to Lyme disease. They didn't get into that.
Does he get stuck when headlights flash in his face?
Yeah, well, there's no headlights, and you know, so but that would have been funny.
That's his weakness. He has
his
flashlights and he's fine.
Yeah. Lights, my one weakness. So yeah, it's really, really good. There's 3 seasons. I think it's 30 episodes. It's on Netflix, at least until Netflix takes it off, because you know,
you never know. But
you never know.
They've been better than some of the other streaming services.
They have been better than some of them, but they're not as good as others. So
that's true. Guys, those are our favorite shows of the year. I'm going to talk about some binging old stuff, but why don't you guys tell us about the shows that you loved, one that you thought was the best objectively, and one that was your personal favorite. Fire away in the comments, whether you're watching this live or after that is posted. Now, Paul, I wanted to talk about old shows that you happened to binge this year. Was there anything that you went back to, or just an old show you never picked up before and decided to watch?
Yes. So I went back and I watched all of Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, wow.
In anticipation of the 5th and final season.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. I have the Blu-ray, so that was easy to do. But the big thing for me was, I don't know why I never knew this, but Amazon Video has a free version.
Yes.
Called Freevee.
Yes.
Although apparently they're getting rid of it and changing the name, or I don't really know. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I discovered that, and I was like, oh, there's all these Amazon Prime shows that I've wanted to watch that I never got a chance to. And Freevee doesn't have the latest seasons of things, and it is ad supported, but that's okay. So I watched the first season of Invincible.
Ooh, excellent.
Which I really liked. Again, really good adaptation of a comic book that I like.
Yeah.
Really good cast.
Amazing cast.
J.K. Simmons as the dad is just...
That's inspired, yes.
Yeah, that was just super cool.
And Stephen Yun, of course, as Mark.
Yep.
Fantastic.
And
what's
Gillian Jacobs and Community and just...
And Love on Netflix, if nobody watched. And the mom, it's Sandra Oh.
Sandra Oh,
yeah.
Who I came to appreciate when she did the show with Jodie Comer on AMC. I don't remember the name of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, what is that show?
You know the one I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck.
I was never a fan. I was never like, it wasn't that I disliked her or anything, but she never really did anything that I was like, she did like that medical TV show that I was never into, and
I loved her in Arliss.
Grey's Anatomy.
She was in
Yeah,
Arliss.
see, I was never a big fan of Arliss, but yeah. So she's really, really good. And then I also on Freevee I watched the first season of the Lord of the Rings show.
Oh, Rings of Power, yeah.
Which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the one that I really liked is I got to see the first 3 seasons of The Boys.
Ah, yes.
Which I really, really liked. Again, a very cool adaptation of the comic books, very much in the spirit, if not the letter of the comics.
I think
Jack Quaid is super good. Aaron Moriarty was super good. I totally shipped those two.
Well, Anthony Starr, wow.
He's disturbing. I mean, the whole cast is good. I did think it was funny though. As I was watching it, I was like, literally after like the first episode, I was like, okay, that guy's a dick. But I kind of knew that going in. And then the more I watched it, I was like, I'm sorry, how did MAGA people not figure out that he's supposed to be a parody of MAGA? Like, it became so obvious. And I know that they didn't get mad about it until season 4, but I'm like, how did that happen? I mean, it would be like if you watched Alec Baldwin on SNL and didn't realize that he was making fun of Trump.
Well,
that he wasn't celebrating.
There are some people that didn't understand that the Colbert Report was a parody. So
right, that just popped into my head too. I was like, oh right, yeah, there was the Colbert Report.
The Boys is, I think, one of the most skillfully done adaptations because Garth Ennis gets weird and wacky, sometimes too far, and the show definitely does get weird and wacky, but never to the extent that he does. And so much of the original comics were rooted in the trauma of 9/11. And I love the way they modernized it for current times. I think it's just so well done.
Yeah.
At least the first 3 seasons. I wasn't as impressed by season 4.
Okay, I haven't seen that one because it's not on Freevee yet. So I assume I'll have to wait till season 5 comes out and then I'll get to see 4. So
we had Zach Morris. Hello, Zach Morris. Shogun was amazing. Really looking forward to Severance is it next month already? Yeah. Oh yeah, it is January. I keep forgetting we're in December already. Oops.
Yeah.
It has been a long wait between Severance seasons, huh? So the show that I ended up binging, well, I always have Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the rotation because it just makes me happy. I mean, it's so good. And that cast. Random question for you, Paul, and for everyone. Who is your favorite Brooklyn Nine-Nine character? Mine may surprise you, but I am a Boyle guy. I think he's just funny and consistent.
Oh God. Because the funny thing for me is I didn't watch the show when it was on. And then for some reason, when I was in England this summer, it was on TV a bunch. And I kept watching it. And then when I got back, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch the show. And I think it's on Netflix, but they only have like the first 5 seasons.
Yeah. Peacock has all of them.
Yeah. So I binged the first 5 seasons and really, really liked it. Because I'm very hit and miss about what's the main guy?
Andy Samberg.
Like sometimes he's hilarious and sometimes I'm just like,
He can be childish at times.
Yeah. But yeah, like I really like that show. Oh, I don't remember the lady's name because it's been a while since I watched the show. The one who's all like bitter and angry and like
that is Rosa, Stephanie Beatrice.
Rosa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked her, especially like when her humanity would kind of sneak out a little bit.
Yeah, like when they wrote her as bisexual and she was struggling with that. I really enjoyed those storylines. The game night episode is one of my favorites. Carlos adds, my overall best was the Penguin. Personal favorite was Abbott Elementary. I am not familiar with that one.
I think I'm gonna start watching Abbott Elementary. I need to like figure out what streaming service it's on.
For Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Carlos is a Captain Holt guy, played by the late great Andre Braugher. He's so good in the show. Yeah. But I mean, I'm a fan of Joe. How do you say his last name? The guy from The State that plays Boyle.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
It's a weird character.
Yeah, I love it that he's weird, and I don't know, like that gimmick is consistent throughout the whole series, whereas the other characters change a bit more.
Right.
Not to the extent of Joey from Friends, where in season 1 he was slow, and by season 7 you're like, how does this man function? they made him borderline mentally handicapped. Carlos says Abbott is on ABC, so
Yeah.
Hulu.
Hulu.
The other show that I binged was Community, which I watched in spurts before. I think I missed 2 of the middle seasons, and I wasn't quite happy with the last season. The first 3 are excellent. Season 4 is the one that Community fans hate, but I think it is actually underrated. It's not as good, but it has some of my favorite bits. Season 4 introduced Captain Marvel as Rachel, a love interest for Abed. And it had this heroic origins episode where it shows how they were all tied together years before they went to school together. It's a very superhero, very comic book episode. So I love that. And they also had, was season 4 when they did the Parent Trap bit? Yeah, it is. When they did the Parent Trap bit where Troy wanted to break up with Britta, but couldn't handle it emotionally. So he did a mind swap with Abed. It was a gimmick, but they just played on it because Abed is such a good friend to him that he's willing to do that. But yeah, I love that. It also, that whole series also makes me wonder about Donald Glover. Like, that man is way more talented than any person should be. I mean, he has really popular music that a lot of people love. Hilarious actor that can do both comedy and drama pretty well. He's not tall, so I guess that's his one flaw. But yeah. Yes, Carlos, Joe Lo Trujillo. That is the proper spelling, I believe, too. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I've loved that guy since The State on MTV, which I think I was like one of the 12 people who watched it. One of my college friends, Will, and I were both all about that show. But this might sound weird to people, but I absolutely love Allison Bree's Macy's commercials. She's doing this whole campaign for Macy's where she's supposed to be like the queen of gift giving or some weirdness, and works for Macy's. And it's just she's so deadpan and hilarious, and I just love this cast, like top to bottom. I think all of the main characters are fantastic, except maybe for the dean. He creeps me out sometimes. I'm like, dude, you shouldn't be touching your students like that. It's getting a little weird, man. Boyle, Johan's also a Boyle fan. So since I think it was season 5 when they killed Chevy Chase's character off, Pierce Hawthorne, and 5 episodes into season 5 is when Donald Glover left the show for good. And then things were not as good. I mean, for me, Donald Glover was kind of like the glue of the show. And Pierce Hawthorne is just a fantastic. You need that old cranky bat. So, but
I was going to say that without him, the show lost something. Although they would all tell you that the show was much more pleasant experience to work on. But I
mean, Chevy Chase is known to be a problematic actor that treats people poorly. Apparently, he had physical altercations with Joel McHale, which is just stupid to fight a man that is younger than you that played college football. Maybe that speaks to the ego of Chevy Chase that he thought it was a good idea to physically fight this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what are your hopes for the Community movie now that we definitely won't have Chevy Chase? We should have Donald Glover back.
I hope that Donald Glover comes back. I hope that Dan Harmon has the time to put into it, because he does, he's doing Krapopolis as well, which I don't particularly enjoy. He's doing obviously still Rick and Morty.
Yes, you're the biggest
Hilarious.
Rick and Morty fan I know.
I do love that show. And I was glad that even though they got rid of the guy that does the voice, they found sound-alike people,
Right.
which is one of my complaints about The Simpsons now is like some of the characters, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So, like, Carl doesn't sound right, and Dr. Hibbert doesn't sound right, and whatnot. And now they just lost the lady who does Millhouse, so I don't know what's
Right.
going to go on there. Yeah, and it's funny too because Family Guy lost the dude who does oh god, the black guy in there.
I was never a Family Guy watcher.
Yeah, well, they had a white guy doing the black guy's voice, and they decided not to do that anymore. And they found a black guy on YouTube who did a spot on impression of that, and they were like, "Come on, you got the job," and he was like, "Okay." I think that's like what you kind of have to do. Go on YouTube and find some kid who's the right person for the job. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, even when Harmon came back, it wasn't nearly as good as it was in the early days. So
right. And it reminds me of couples that get back together and the magic isn't quite there,
Right. Well, it's also, I mean, you also see that with like rock bands, like, a rock band will break up and then they'll get back together. And it's like, well, although it's interesting with rock bands, not to get off topic, but like with rock bands, I noticed that like they sometimes lose the magic in the studio, but they don't lose it live.
Yeah.
Like there's a ton of bands that like broke up and got back together and they kick ass in concert, but then you hear their studio stuff and it's like,
right.
Yeah. But
so let's get out of here on this question.
Okay.
For you and for anyone else watching now and for anyone watching later to leave in the comment section, favorite character on Community. I'll let you go first. It's a tough one because there's a lot of good ones.
I know, and I haven't watched that show in ages.
Similar to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, there isn't really a bad choice. It's really just to.
I remember really liking Gillian Jacobs' character and Alison Brie's character.
2010 Alison Brie is like the perfect woman. That just reminds me.
I think I have to go with Troy.
Oh, interesting.
I think, yeah. I mean, he was just weird, and him and Abed and him and it was not just him on his own, but him with all the other characters. Like their interactions were very.
That's why I said I think he's the glue of the show, and when he left, that's when I think the wheels really fell off.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
For me, I'm going with Abed just because he's, if Troy's weird, then what the hell is Abed? Because he's out.
Yeah.
But he reminds me because I didn't really fit in grade school and high school. I didn't really find people I could identify with closely until college. So Abed's weirdness is something I wasn't on the spectrum like he is allegedly, but him feeling weird and out of place, that's very much how I felt growing up. So, and plus, we're into a lot of the same weird movies and stuff. I actually wanted to ask Marcus, being a big Doctor Who fan, what he thought of Inspector Spacetime. So I thought that was, but yeah, I love the actor too. Danny Pudi is really great.
Yeah.
Also enjoy him in Mythic Quest on Apple TV. Another great series. So that'll be a wrap, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us for this hour and 9 minutes. These were our favorite TV shows of 2024. As always, we'd love to hear yours. We'll be back next week. Paul will not. I will be. Mac will be coming back. I do want one more person. I'm going to try to con Carlos into hanging out with us, where we're going to talk about the best movies and our favorite movies of 2024. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.